comment on the fireman thing?
Well, the fireman overtime thing, well, it was discovered, it was referred to the comptroller. I guess that's the right thing to do. I think it's symptomatic. It's symptomatic of a system, of a defined benefit system, because there's a vested interest in always trying to maximize the return, as opposed to a contribution system where it's a tangible asset that's portable. I mean, I think it's part and parcel of the type of system in place, and how much of it is okay as long as nobody knows about it. I don't know. I don't know what the rules are.
Yeah,
but I mean, everybody wants to obviously end up with the maximum they can get.
It just seems to me that it seems to be commonplace among public employees is to go out and...
It's commonplace.
It's commonplace. You read it all the time, and especially when you've got, you're self-included, along with Mayor Bloomberg and others who come out and say, we can't afford these big pensions anymore that we've given through our contracts and so on, and it's gotten to be too much. Then you find out that not only are they very generous with the public's money, but that they're also padding these pensions to get even more of the public money. And you think that there'd be an end to it somewhere. That it's bankrupting cities and municipalities.
Well, and
towns, and then to have the employees go out and just add on to it.
That's nothing new, and in fact, that is for generations it was like common practice that the senior people nearing retirement were allowed to work more overtime in order to jack the pension up and so on. I don't think it was even viewed as anything right or wrong. It was part of the culture in the system. I'm just saying that if you're offended by that behavior, which is really just sort of an entrepreneurial spirit, I guess you could say, but if you're offended by the behavior, you may want to advocate for changing the whole system over to a defined contribution system where that's less likely to happen, or there's no incentive to have it happen. Whether or not it's, right or wrong, I'll let the comptroller make...
Well, I wouldn't say that it's insinuating because I'm self-employed, that I'm jealous. I would say that when I worked at the air brake, I don't remember those kind of things going on either. And I'm just saying that I think it's wrong, and I think it's wrong that, especially in the economic climate that we're facing today, that to abuse a system like that is just a little over the top. That's what I'm saying, I guess.
Yeah, and not to play devil's advocate or defend the status quo, I'm just saying what happens, and that if the system is set up and it's driven by factors as in, 3-year average or highest 3-year average or something like that, is it any wonder that people with an entrepreneurial spirit, if you will, are going to try to maximize those numbers? I mean, because it has long-term implications for, 2-3 decades beyond when they leave. So it doesn't surprise me. If it's against the rules, it shouldn't happen. And if it's against the rules, the city manager did the right thing in telling them to cease and desist and referring it to the comptroller for further study. Well, it seems to me to be pretty responsible action there. Now, whether it should have... And a lot of times, stuff, it was just like some of our problems at the arena last year. We say they're wrong, and they are wrong, but we're wrong because, in that case, city council and so on insisted they be pointed out and hired the auditor to look at it. It's the stuff you don't know about that goes on all the time that you might want to be more alarmed at. In this case, it was discovered. Yeah, in this case, it was
about it. And isn't that what? That's kind of why you try to put them elected officials in there that you hope would oversee this kind of.
Well, we don't have that system here. We don't have that expectation of elected officials because this is a system in which they don't have that direct administrative control on things because that's the way it's set up. Whether, again, it should be that way is open to debate. But, everybody likes to say, don't micromanage, don't get in the middle of it, respect the system. And then when there's something that's a little bit awry, it's like, well, why weren't you in there micromanaging and showing leadership and vision and all of that? So you can't have it both ways all the time. You want to have a system in which the role of elected officials is intentionally diminished and subordinated, then you're not going to necessarily have that as your primary method of oversight. Yes, they do some oversight to the extent possible.
Well, I've always been an advocate for checks and balances, and I also like the idea, and I said it before on this show, that I like the idea that the council does play a role in the government here. The majority of the council has a role, and that the city manager works at the pleasure of the council. So yeah, there's checks and balances there. That's what makes it good and right. And when things go wrong, then they should have the ability to.
On the other hand, in this case, there was something that was perceived as wrong. They were told to stop. And
it wasn't because it was an email that.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Oh yeah, like a whistleblower type thing.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Okay, thank you.
I guess sometimes thank God for the whistleblowers. Huh?
Well, that's what they're there for. That's why you got snitch lines. All right, thank you.
Great.
Bye now. Good afternoon, Hotline.